streets harassing everybody, that the whole world's just going to collapse and it'll turn into Mad Max, vengeance on the roadways, when then the reality is that I've seen it, and I've seen 50,000 people just get along great.
Yeah, what if the whole world should exist as the Burning Man Festival, and instead of just having that once a year, all the time, all over the place?
Well, because people, they just do what they're best at and what they love the most. And if you, like I said earlier, when you're hanging out at Moby's having wings there, I was saying that a happy worker is a successful business. Yeah. People don't like their jobs, and they don't like what they're doing. It's stressing everybody.
I think we're at a point of enormous change. I think we're at a place where, with the proper tools brought together, it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, where finally you find the one corner piece so you can start putting it together.
Right.
I think we have a potential for people to recognize that by finding their own passion, sharing that without regard for getting paid first kind of thing.
Yeah.
You find your passion, you can find abundance. I firmly believe that, and I think you look at anyone from Willie Nelson to any of the musicians.
I feel I'm living proof of that. I've got lots of abundance in my life.
Me too.
I've got a karma-filled horseshoe up my butt. I swear.
Your belly attests to your abundance.
Hey now. I've got a face for radio. I know it. Okay, we're gonna jump back onto a track here. Once again, we're listening to a live session, last session, Nocturnal Emissions here on 107.9 FM and online at www.fm or CFSI-fm.com. I'm flustered.
Nothing compares to the quiet evening alone. Just the one, two. I've also counting on that never happened. I guess I'm dreaming again, but I've been morbid. Nothing compares to a quiet evening alone. Just the one, two. I've also counting on that never happened. I guess I'm dreaming again, but I've been morbid.
And we're back. We were talking about the police, and we were talking about the Mounties and all that stuff. Robert Menard here with me on CFSI. This is Dan Snakehead. You're live.
Hi Dan, thanks for having me.
No problem. We got other people making phone calls and stuff. What's going on over there? No, but you were mentioning that recently the American police have been granted the right to cross over to the Canadian border if they are in pursuit.
I would argue with granted the right, because my position is
poor terminology on my part.
But yeah, they have now been apparently granted the power to cross the border if they are in active pursuit of someone for like whatever, a certain distance across the border.
And now, is that just with America to Canada, or the United States to Canada, or is that?
I believe it's just America to Canada, from what I read. And the problem that I see with this, to me, this is an alarm bell going off. It is the kind of thing that would make our ancestors who fought, killed, and died for our country roll over in their grave.
Yeah.
We are allowing armed people to come across the border and engage in actions that we would never allow our neighbors to do, and they're doing it essentially unlawfully. If you look at the people who are affected by it, and you examine who gains and who loses, you see that there's a number of people in it. First, there's the Canadian people. There's the Canadian police officers, the American police officers, and the American people. We lose as Canadian people. We have allowed a foreign force to step across a certain line and engage in actions that this line exists to protect against, fundamentally.
Yeah, it's like the first domino at this point. Yeah.
We're supposed to stop them there from doing that very thing. That's why that there exists. Then there's the Canadian police. In order for the American police's actions to be justifiable, the Canadian police have to be seen as more than a little bit incompetent. They can't use a radio, for Christ's sake. They aren't capable of stopping these people, because their entire argument is that they're chasing people across the border, and they need to be able to cross the border to continue the chase and to capture these people.
Right.
Which implies that they can't call the Mounties on a goddamn radio and say, hey, we're here, they're there, position yourself,
Yeah.
and you capture them.
You think that'd be a button on the steering wheel?
Yeah. So their argument on that regard is ludicrous to me. Then the fact is, here's how they do it. They start off slow. They say we have to do it within 5 kilometers of the shore. Then it's 10. Then it's 20. Then it's 100. And then how many people live within 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers of the border? We're all down there.
Yeah.
And then the other argument, what I see them doing next from a strategic point of view, they argue that the chasing involves doing it from an office in D.C., so that the investigations that they're operating on their side of the border is then used to justify crossing this border, going anywhere in the country, seizing anyone. Now, it might seem an extreme point of view, but there's no reason on earth for them to be crossing the border. And what I would like to see done is an injunction. What we're seeking to have done is an injunction barring them from doing that pending a judicial determination where a couple of points are raised based on the criminal code, based on the immigration acts. From the criminal code perspective, can these people simply cross the border and engage in these actions and be breaking the criminal code of Canada, or are they exempt? If they are acting as peace officers, they have to be hired to do so. This means that they have to be able to claim that they can fulfill a function which no one here can do, which is a great big slap in the face to the cops here. I think the police of Canada are going to be harmed by this far more than, well, not far more. We all get hurt. The only people who win are the American cops, and the people who lose the most are the American people. Because if there is, for some reason, if they try to close a trap on the American people, and they want to claim that escaping a geographical area for economic reasons is a criminal offense, it would be akin to the slaves who sought to cross the border hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
And the decision is,
Well,
do we
that is
allow them to
slavery.
continue chasing these people who are escaping tyranny? Because that's what I see down the road. People in the States
Yeah.
running to Canada to escape tyranny.
Yeah.
And what these people are trying to do is position themselves where they can cut that off. So it's those people who have the greatest danger that they face immediately. We're Canadians. We'll absorb it and then fight it off and send them back 200, you know.
Yeah.
But that's where I see the danger with that is. And the remedy that I see for that is us going to court and saying, look, this is unacceptable. Let's seek an injunction and then raise the issue about whether or not they can operate under the criminal code without being designated or hired as peace officers. And if they can be designated and hired as peace officers, are they operating within the immigration acts? Because that says you have to be able to claim that there's no one here who can do it. And
Yeah.
doing that, tell the cops here, tell the OPP, tell the RCMP that we have to let the American cops cross the border because you're incompetent. That's what they're fundamentally claiming.
So you mean in order to get like 10 tons of black tar heroin across the border, all I need is a cop SWAT vehicle now?
Either that or someone... Maybe, I don't know. I don't know, Hans.
I was gonna say, it sounds like another fear tactic. Like they know Canadians are pretty much not in the same level of fear as the States, as far as we don't lock our doors and worry about a lot of stuff. They've been, Michael Moore showed that in Bowling for Columbine. Since then, they've been trying to push the fear onto our side, to make us kind of get to that same level of fear, which is
Well,
important
when you're
for
scared, you
security,
spend, right?
You got to be in fear to want the security to lose your freedom, is what it comes to.
Yeah, I see it kind of as a battle between those who want a society of free people and an orderly society. And the people with the guns, they seem to really like the order as opposed to the freedom.
Now they're in fear themselves.
Well, that's because they got the guns.
Yeah. They have that power. So I don't know. I think if we allow this to continue, it's only a matter of time before these cops in America are crossing the line and taking Canadians right across the board,
Yeah.
not because we are running across the border, but because they are chasing us across the border.
So is there? So when you say the word chase, is there like a time statute on this? Like, for example, if somebody who's racked up a massive amount of debt to the United States has settled in Canada, does that give the police the right to come raging across the border with the cherries lit?
I would say absolutely not.
You know, or not the right. Sorry, but yeah. Well, that's what revolution needs, you know. It's only at the most, it's only the breaking point when revolution happens. So my opinion is everybody's pretty much just going to bend over and take it dry until it hurts everyone too much so that they turn around and freak out, you know. But that's just me.
I don't like that idea so much. I'd rather find the power before that, where we don't have to do either of those things, but we can still build a better society.
No, I agree with that. So what did you want to chat about? You want to chat about like...
I just want to give a big shout out to Bert there. Good night, Bert. So, you know, my name's Robert, and one of my best friends calls me Bert. He's the only guy who gets away with it. So.
Well, Bert Easterbrook is a big fan. I know he's mentioned to me a couple of times. He was pretty excited about the show, so I wanted to make sure that we got it recorded on audio. Before we move on, I also wanted to mention that all of these episodes of Nocturnal Emissions over the last year or so have been recorded and archived by a fellow DJ out of northern Alberta, DJ Skyline, aka Greg Willich, and I owe him a ton of respect and thank yous. Buddy, if you're ever on the West Coast and you need to get treated like royalty, you know who to call, man. I can't thank you enough for recording all of these shows and making them readily available to me so I could archive them and redistribute them again. They're going to be a lot of fun to look back on when I'm old. I'm just glad to have them. So yeah, thank you, Greg. That being said, art. What was it? You want to talk about art or poodles or golf or something?
You have a very unique interviewing style there, Dan. Rabbits? No, actually, it was...
A lot of people don't know you were in the Army.
I was. I'm okay now.
4 years?
4 years.
Phew. Infantry.
Actually, I learned a lot there. Some of the things I learned was about strategy when you're bringing action against the government, whether or not you're using force of arms or whether or not you're using just your words and your love. The strategy is very much similar.
Would you say you learned Army strategies and applied them to
Absolutely.
your day-to-day life and the way you...
yeah, the art of war, but the art of war.
Sun Tzu styles.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I see, I know, for the most part, I've always found violence was the stupid man's way out. It was a lazy way out.
I think insults come before violence, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of violence. I think that we are in a position on a conscious level that we should be able to figure out what we're dealing with and not have to resort to violence. Certainly I don't advocate violence in seeking change over the government.
Yeah.
But I did learn a lot in the Army. Had a lot of fun.
The natives prophesized here in Canada that if they just stuck to the 4 sacred laws of peace, that the white man would come and do their thing and eventually get wiped out, and they could go back to the way it was before, kind of thing. And that's pretty much what they're doing. But I agree with peace. But you know
what I found throughout my my journey, I guess, so far. When I first got into this, I was very angry, and I looked at the cops and the government and the courts as my enemy.
Right.
And that wasn't working for me. I mean, it's a tiresome
you
path.
think?
And I realized that my real enemies were fear and anger and shame.
Yeah.
They exist in our own hearts. And it was by overcoming those that I got to the place where I could see the benefit of love, compassion, and truth. And it sounds silly, but this shit works when you're dealing with the bullies with the guns. If you can show them compassion, you can show them love, you can show them truth, they don't really want to beat you up anymore.
You know, it seems like kind of a cheap fix, but it worked at the time, and it seems like it's almost gone too far. I remember throwing a show down on Long Harbor here on Salt Spring Island, and a bunch of the you know, drunk guys, the beefy guys that were always looking to cause problems or whatnot would show up, and they'd be all in the zone and all drunk, and they'd be like yelling at people, and I always would approach them as soon as possible and say, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you're here." And they'd usually look at me with confusion, like, who? What's going on? And I'd say, yeah, man, this place is out of control. We don't have any security. You need to be my security, man. Like, thank God there's some people who could do this job, because none of these people are quite capable of what you can do, kind of thing, and feed the ego. And you know what? As soon as I did that, it would always, they just stand around cross-armed, like, yeah, we're doing a good job keeping this place under control, because we're the authority, and we're the security. And
gave a dog a bone.
Yeah, kind of thing. And I think that the whole concept of where the police are now is just, it kind of like started like that, you know, like, oh, well, you could be in charge just in case, and now it's like this, you know, it starts with that instead of something that you rely on. It's something that relies on you. And
I think several hundred years ago we were probably looking at a different situation, and that people were a little bit more aggressive and willing to stab people in the back for a burger, kind of thing, because people do strange things when they feel their survival is on the line. But recently, I don't know if you've heard of this, Dan, but in the RCMP, 500 officers recently filed some action, I believe, and I don't have the full story, and I don't have my computer with me, but I'm pretty sure they threatened to go public with some of the problems that they've seen. And CBC did a piece on it, and they called it the Orchard of Bad Apples. And these 500 cops are actually very good peace officers, it appears, and they are unhappy with the path that the RCMP is taking. And it's kind of like a mutiny, eh? It's a mutiny of Mounties.
I'm looking that up right now. National Post: dissident Mounties threaten to expose forces' orchard of bad apples. Yeah, here it is, right here. On the heels of a bitter public spat between Canada's top Mountie and two BC-based officers who criticized him, a new group of disgruntled officers has emerged, snipping at RCMP brass and threatening to expose certain investigative files and compromising pictures of members whom it deems unworthy of the uniform. That's pretty interesting. You know, it takes a lot of gusto, a lot of brass to step up when you're in such a hierarchical system as the RCMP.
You know what I think they're facing? They are realizing that on a fundamental level across the globe, there's a growing level of consciousness. They are on the wrong side of the line, and they are saying, okay, I will cross the line, tow it, and protect what the law is about. These are the true peace officers.
Yeah.
And when we can empower them to do that en masse, we can get our country back. Because right now, swear to God, we have been hijacked by corporations.
Rob, say goodnight.
Good night, guys. Thanks for having me here. Best of luck in your future endeavors, bro.